I was standing in my own kitchen when my son said it like he was talking about the weather. "I sold your house to pay for a vacation for me and my wife. You have 1 day to get out." I thought I misheard him. I actually laughed. Just once. Because there was no way a man says something like that to his own father and means it. But he didn't smile. He didn't look away. He just stood there, calm, holding a set of papers in his hand like everything had already been decided, like my life had already been erased without me. My name is Walter Bennett. I was 74 years old, standing in my kitchen in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with my coffee still warm on the table and my dead wife's chair still pushed in where I kept it every morning. My son Daniel had one hand in his jacket pocket and the other on those papers. His wife, Nicole, stood by the doorway with her arms folded, like she was waiting on a plumber to finish a job. I said, "That house isn't yours to sell." Daniel finally moved then. He stepped closer and laid the papers on the table beside my cup. "You signed things, Dad, months ago." I stared at him. I did remember signing papers. Hospital papers, bank papers, things he brought over after I got out of surgery in the spring, when I was still dizzy from pain pills and too tired to read more than a line at a time. He had sat right where he was standing now and said, "I'm helping you keep everything in order." Nicole gave a little shrug and said, "You should have paid more attention." That hit me harder than Daniel's words did. I looked around my kitchen like it might tell me I was wrong. The faded yellow curtains Martha picked out in 1989. The crack in the tile by the stove. The clock over the sink that ran 5 minutes fast for 20 years. My whole life was in that room, and my son was acting like it was already rubble. Then Daniel said something I still hear when I try to sleep. He said, "Don't make this ugly. The buyers are taking possession tomorrow." Buyers. Not maybe. Not thinking about it. Not a bluff. Buyers. I asked him where I was supposed to go, and he had the nerve to say, "There's a motel on Route 66 that does weekly rates." A motel, after 42 years in that house, after burying my wife from that house, after raising him in that house. I felt something inside me go cold. Not loud, not wild, just cold. Then I noticed a small thing that didn't fit. Daniel had brought a suitcase downstairs from my bedroom. It was sitting by the back door already zipped shut. I never packed it. I looked at him and said, very quietly, "You were upstairs before I came in here?" He didn't answer right away. Nicole did. She said, "We packed what mattered." That was the moment I understood this had started long before breakfast, and whatever they'd taken from upstairs was worse than losing the house. I walked past them without another word and went straight upstairs. My legs felt heavier with every step, like the house itself was trying to hold me back, or maybe warn me. My bedroom door was open. That alone made my stomach turn. I stepped inside and stopped. The closet doors were wide open. The dresser drawers were pulled out halfway. It looked like someone had gone through my life in a hurry, deciding what mattered and what didn't. My suits were gone. Not all of them, just the newer ones. The ones I'd bought after Martha passed, when I was still trying to look like a man who had somewhere to go. My old clothes were still there, hanging loose like they belonged to someone already forgotten. I moved to the dresser. The top drawer, empty. That's where I kept my documents. My will, my insurance papers, the deed. Gone. I felt my hand start to shake, so I pressed it down on the wood to steady myself. The surface was scratched from years of use. Martha used to complain about that drawer sticking. Said I pulled it too hard. I opened the nightstand next. Empty. That's when it hit me. Not just what they'd taken, but how carefully they'd done it. Not random, not rushed, planned. I turned slowly and walked back downstairs. Daniel was sitting at the table now, sipping my coffee like it belonged to him. Nicole was scrolling on her phone, barely looking up when I entered. I said, "Where are my papers?" Daniel didn't even hesitate. "Safe." "Safe where?" "With me." I nodded once. Just once. "You went into my room. You packed my things, you took my documents, before telling me any of this." Nicole let out a quiet sigh like I was being difficult. We didn't want a scene. I looked at her then, really looked. The way she avoided my eyes. The way her mouth tightened just a little. She wasn't uncomfortable. She was annoyed. That's when Daniel leaned forward and said something low, something meant to sound reasonable. "You weren't managing things anymore, Dad. Bills were late. You forgot appointments. This was necessary. Necessary." I let that word sit between us. "I had surgery," I said. "I was recovering." He shook his head. "You've been slipping longer than that." That was the first lie. Not the biggest, but the first one I could prove. Because I knew exactly when things changed. 3 months ago, when Daniel started coming by more often, offering to help, bringing paperwork, asking questions about accounts I'd managed just fine for 40 years. And suddenly, everything I owned had his name on it. I sat down across from him, slow and steady. "You didn't just sell the house," I said. "You set this up." For the first time, he didn't answer right away. Nicole looked up then, and there was something in her eyes. Not guilt, not fear, impatience. Daniel finally said, "It's done. Fighting it won't change anything." I nodded again, but this time it felt different. Because right then, I realized something he hadn't thought through. If everything was already done, if the house was already sold, then why hadn't they left yet? Why were they still standing in my kitchen, watching me, waiting for something? I didn't say it out loud right away, but the question stayed there, heavy in my chest. Why were they still here? If everything was done, if I was already erased, then what were they waiting for? Daniel stood up and started pacing, like he suddenly had too much energy in his body. Nicole stayed where she was, arms crossed, watching me like I was a problem that hadn't solved itself yet. I said, "The buyers? When are they coming?" Daniel stopped mid-step. "Tomorrow morning." "Then why aren't you gone?" That landed. Nicole shifted her weight, just a little. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck and looked toward the window instead of at me. Then he said, "We need access." "Access to what?" He exhaled slowly, like I was forcing him to explain something obvious. "There are still some things in the house that need to be handled. Financial stuff, transfers, accounts that are still in your name." There it was. Not done. Not even close. I leaned back in my chair and felt something settle inside me. Something sharp and clear. "You don't have full control," I said. Daniel's jaw tightened. "We have enough." "Not everything." Nicole stepped in then, her voice colder than before. "Look, we're trying to do this the easy way. Don't make it harder on yourself." I almost smiled, because now I understood this wasn't over. Not for them. They still needed something from me. I said, "What exactly are you missing?" Daniel hesitated, and that hesitation told me more than any answer could. "It's just paperwork," he said finally. "Some accounts didn't transfer cleanly. We need you to sign a few final documents. That's it." "That's it," I repeated. He nodded quickly. Too quickly. "Yeah." I looked at the papers on the table, then at him. "You already had me sign things once," I said, "when I was on medication." His face hardened. "You're twisting it." "No," I said calmly. "I'm remembering it." Nicole's voice cut in, sharper now. "We don't have time for this. Just sign what needs to be signed and we're done." Done. I let out a slow breath and stood up. For a second, just a second, I saw something flicker across Daniel's face. Relief. He thought I was giving in. I walked over to the table, picked up the papers he'd brought, and flipped through them slowly. Page after page of language meant to confuse, meant to rush, meant to make a tired man say yes just to end the conversation. But I wasn't tired anymore. I reached the last page, and that's where I saw it. A transfer, not just accounts. Everything that was left. Savings, investments, the last pieces of my name, all moving to Daniel. I placed the papers back down carefully. Then I looked at him and said, "You didn't sell my house for a vacation." He froze. Nicole didn't move at all. I held his eyes and finished the thought, slow and steady. "You needed that money because something else is already falling apart, and you're trying to take the rest before it does." Daniel didn't answer me. Not right away. But he didn't deny it either. And at 74 years old, you learn to hear silence just as clearly as words. Nicole was the first to move. She uncrossed her arms and stepped closer to him, just enough to close the space between them. Not for comfort, for control. "That's not your concern," she said. I kept my eyes on my son. "It is when you're stealing from me to fix it." That word hit him. I saw it. His shoulders stiffened, his jaw locked, and for a moment he looked like the boy he used to be, caught doing something he knew was wrong. Then it passed. He straightened up and said, "It's not stealing. It's managing what should have been handled years ago." "Years ago?" I asked. "While I was paying your bills?" Nicole let out a sharp breath. "Oh my God, here we go." I turned to her. "How much?" She blinked. "What? How much are you in for?" Daniel snapped. "Don't talk to her like that." "I'm not talking to her," I said quietly. "I'm asking her a question you don't want to answer." Silence again. And that silence told me everything. I stepped closer to the table, resting my hand on the back of Martha's chair. "You didn't take a vacation," I said. "You're running." Nicole's face changed then. Not a lot, but enough. That tight control slipped for just a second. Daniel saw it too. "Stop," he said to me, low and warning. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know debt when I see it," I said, "and I know desperation." That's when he slammed his hand on the table. "Enough," he shouted. The sound echoed through the kitchen, bounced off the walls that had held birthday dinners, Christmas mornings, quiet nights that meant something. Now it just sounded empty. "You think you're the victim here?" he said, breathing hard. "You think you didn't do this? You kept everything locked down. You never trusted me with anything. You made me depend on you." I stared at him. "I helped you," I said, "every time you asked." "No," he shot back. "You controlled it. There's a difference." Nicole stepped in again, softer now, but colder somehow. "We have obligations, Walter, real ones, things you wouldn't understand." I almost laughed, but it didn't come out. "Try me," I said. She hesitated. Daniel didn't. "We owe money," he said flatly. "A lot of it." There it was, the truth, or at least the edge of it. "How much?" I asked. He looked at me like he was deciding something. Then he said, "More than this house was worth." The room went quiet. Even the clock over the sink seemed to stop ticking. I nodded slowly. "So you sold my house, and it still wasn't enough." Neither of them answered, and that's when the last piece fell into place. Because if it wasn't enough, then they weren't just taking from me. They were already being chased by someone else. I leaned in just slightly and asked the one question neither of them was ready for. "Who do you owe?" Daniel didn't answer me. Not right away. But this time, it wasn't silence. It was fear. I saw it clear as day. Nicole looked at him, not at me, and gave the smallest shake of her head. A warning, a plea. I couldn't tell which. I said it again, slower. "Who do you owe?" Daniel ran his hand over his face like he was trying to wipe something off that wouldn't come off. Then he laughed, but there was nothing in it. "You really want to know?" he said. "Yes." He nodded once, like he'd crossed some line he couldn't step back from. "It's not a bank," he said. That was enough to make the air in the room feel different. Nicole stepped forward quickly. "Daniel, don't—" "It's already gone too far," he snapped. Then he looked back at me. "I invested," he said. "A private group. High returns, short-term loans. It was supposed to be temporary." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I borrowed to get in, he continued, then borrowed more to cover the first loss, then more to fix that. It just kept stacking. How much? I asked. His voice dropped. 380,000. The number didn't hit all at once. It sank in slowly, like water through wood. And the house? I asked. 260 after fees, he said. So you're still in the hole. He nodded. Nicole cut in, sharper now. We had a plan. The house was step 1. These accounts, she tapped the papers. That's step 2. Then we're clear. Clear. I looked at her and said, You're not clearing anything. You're feeding it. She didn't answer. Daniel leaned forward, his voice tight. They're not like a bank, Dad. They don't wait. They don't negotiate. There it was. Not just debt. Pressure. I felt something cold move through my chest. When do you have to pay? I asked. Soon, he said. How soon? He hesitated, then said, Tomorrow. Tomorrow. Same day the buyers were coming. Same day I was supposed to be out of my own house. Everything lined up. Not a vacation, a deadline. I looked at the suitcase by the door again, then back at him. You were going to take the rest today, I said. Empty everything, leave me with nothing, and hope it was enough to keep them off your back. He didn't deny it. That hurt more than anything else. Not the house, not the money. That. I sat down slowly, feeling my legs finally catch up to everything that had just been said. Do they know about me? I asked. Nicole answered this time, too quickly. No. Daniel looked at her, then back at me. They might, he said quietly. That was the truth, and it landed heavy, because now it wasn't just about what they'd taken. It was about what they'd brought to my door. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see a boy I'd raised. I saw a man who had dragged something dangerous into my home and was ready to sacrifice me to survive it. Then there was a knock at the door. Not loud, not rushed, just one slow, deliberate knock. The knock came again. Same pace, same weight, like whoever stood on the other side already knew they didn't need to rush. Daniel froze. Nicole didn't move at all this time. Whatever control she'd been holding on to, it was gone now. I stood up slowly. No, Daniel said, stepping in front of me. Don't! It's my door, I said. He grabbed my arm. Not hard, but enough. Dad, please. That word didn't sound like him anymore. Please. I looked down at his hand, then back at his face. You brought this here, I said quietly. You don't get to hide from it now. The knock came a third time. Daniel let go. I walked to the door. Every step felt steady. Not rushed, not afraid. Just clear. I reached for the handle, paused for half a second, then opened it. 2 men stood there, plain clothes. No uniforms, no badges. Just the kind of stillness you only see in people who don't need to prove anything. One of them looked past me immediately, straight into the house. Daniel Bennett here? He asked. I didn't answer. Behind me, I heard Daniel's breath catch. Nicole whispered, Don't say anything. I stepped aside. The man didn't thank me, didn't nod. He just walked in like the space already belonged to him. The second one followed. They stopped in the middle of the kitchen. Daniel didn't move. One of the men looked at the table, at the papers, at the suitcase by the door. Then he looked at my son. You're late, he said. Daniel tried to speak, but nothing came out at first. Then finally, I have it. I'm getting it today. The man tilted his head slightly. Today was yesterday. Nicole stepped forward, her voice shaking now. We just need a little more time. The second man raised his hand, and she stopped talking, just like that. Silence filled the room. I stood by the door, watching it all like I was already outside of it. Like this wasn't my life anymore. The first man took a slow step closer to Daniel. "How much do you have right now?" he asked. Daniel swallowed. "Not enough yet." The man nodded once, like he already knew that. Then his eyes shifted. To me, just for a second. But it was enough. He looked around the kitchen, the walls, the table, the life that had been mine. And then he said something that didn't belong in that room. "He lives here?" No one answered. Not Daniel, not Nicole. I felt that cold thing in my chest again. Deeper this time, because now it wasn't about money anymore. The man looked back at my son. "You didn't mention him." Daniel's voice broke when he finally spoke. "I was going to fix it." The man stared at him for a long moment. Then he said, calm as anything, "You just made it worse." And that's when the second man walked past them, straight toward me. If this story meant something to you, subscribe. There's more to come.